Welcoming people in. Thank you, Jackie. So, just like we are saying, welcome, it feels like, wow, here we are back together again, but it's great. It's great to see people, or even, and don't worry, you don't have to turn your cameras on if you don't want to. It's great to interact with people and just get started talking about math. So, welcome. We're looking at kindergarten to grade 3 today, and the whole idea of starting off the school year. So Jackie and I have put together some resources that we hope you'll find very useful. And we shall start with our land acknowledgement. Thanks, Jackie.
For sure. Well, good morning, everybody. I'll introduce myself after the land acknowledgement, but I would like to acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have cared for, lived on, and celebrated these lands for many years. Today, though we gather on our virtual platform, we take a moment to express our gratitude for the land that supports us and to recognize the deep connections all peoples have to it. As we reflect on this beautiful landscape from Cold Lake First Nation, let us take a moment to think about how we can move forward in a spirit of reconciliation, respect, and collaboration, honoring the histories and cultures of all of those who have walked these lands before us. I'm from Cold Lake, Alberta. My name is Jackie Radkovic, and I am in the Northeast office. And I've been working with the Northeast office. We used to be called Learning Network Educational Services, and I've been working with them now for 24 years. I've had the joy of being able to work with them, and part of that job is allowing me to meet people from all over the province. And I'm really grateful to be here today, and I'm excited to support Wanda while she presents today for the K-3 getting started the first 2 weeks of school. Go ahead, Wanda.
Thanks, Jackie. And my name is Wanda Decant, and I'm from the Calgary office of APLC. So we work with the surrounding school divisions around the Calgary area, and I live just south of Calgary, kind of in the Black Diamond area. And Jackie and I, it's great. We get to partner up with our colleagues across the province. So if you have questions resulting from today, please reach out to either one of us, and we're happy to support you or connect you with your like APLC person in your geographical area. So just definitely reach out. So welcome everybody. I just put this at the beginning because we often forget to ask about the survey, but there's a little survey at the very end and it's in the companion slides that we'll share with you guys. So if you're able to take like 45 seconds when you're done and fill this out, we would totally appreciate that. So thank you. So, as Jackie and I were talking about just looking at math and what helps to set students up for success in math, and in this role, we get to go into a lot of different classrooms and work with a lot of different teachers, and kind of the common themes that keep coming up are these 5 themes, like looking at building trust and beliefs, inspiring curiosity, promoting collaboration, establishing expectations, and working with students on engaging tasks. So we thought we would take these 5 areas, and these are like our main focus for today. And again, you'll have these in the slides and the information that you share, but just so you know kind of what we're zeroing in on. And to get started with that whole trust and collaboration and relationship, we would love to know who's here with us. So, what we would ask is Jackie's going to put the link to these companion slides in the chat. And then, if you don't mind clicking on the link that will appear in the chat, it should open up this slide deck that looks like this. You'll see the same title at first. And if you pop down to slide 4 and 5, they're the exact same as each other. And if you'll just move one of those green check marks, there's like 4 piles of check marks off to the side. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And just let us know, what grade level are you representing? And if you're a district person or a math coach, or you might fit into the other category, totally no problem. So we just have 2 slides in case one screen got a little busy. Yeah, perfect. And then we also know you can interact with the slides, so double bonus. Okay. Flip down to here. Okay, it looks like most people are on slide 4. And if the check marks don't cooperate, or if you're on your phone, feel free just to type it in the chat as well. There's multiple ways to do things. So if anything doesn't work for you, just type it in the chat and keep it simple. But Okay. Okay, a lot of grade 3 folks and kind of a distribution. Narinder grade 1 and TJ grade 1. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, great. And 3, 4 combos. Well, welcome. Okay, we're excited that you're here with us. Now, slide 6 and 7 are also meant to be editable. And as I share some of the information that Jackie and I compiled together, we also know that there's great expertise out here, like all of you folks. So if you have an idea that you're like, you know what, I tried this and I loved it, it worked great, type it in the chart. And it doesn't really matter what grade level it lines up with, but that's what slide 6 and 7 are meant for. Is there something pops to your mind that we might say something and it reminds you of something else? Feel free to share it, and then you can learn a little bit from your colleagues as well. So be welcome to type whatever you like on slide 6 and slide 7. So we'll kind of pop back and forth between this slide deck and then our main sharing slide deck. Okay.
Yeah, Wanda, I just wanted to add to that
Mhm.
Wanda will be sharing, a few supports for you today. But don't worry, at the end, we're making you stay till the end, and we have this one pager that summarizes all the links and everything that we've talked about from today, and we will be putting that into the notes at the end. So it'll be a one pager that just summarizes all the big ideas.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. We kind of wanted to gather it together so you have it all. And there's a chance it might have expanded into a two-pager, but okay, so getting to know our students. When we look at the 5 key areas in the upper right of this slide, one big part, obviously, especially with the beginning of a school year, is getting to know our students. And I mean, we do this every year. And the little twist here is how can we get to know our students with the lens of mathematics? So, ways to get to know what are they like as a mathematician? What's their math identity? Like how do they feel or think when we talk about math with them? It might be very different. A student might feel a certain way regarding ELAL, and maybe they feel different regarding math. So we have a couple different things to share with you. And under our 5 headings here, um, building trust and belief, we have a short video that we found. It's about 1 minute and 41 seconds, and we'll play that for you in a moment. Before I play that video, there's also a second video that kind of pairs nicely with it, is sort of the what next. Can you just type a little yes or no in the chat if you've had a chance to explore some of the videos on Jill Bowler's U Cubed website? She does a lot of work on like mathematical mindset, and there's this one video specifically, mistakes are important, and it's like a 2 minute video, 2:30 or something, that would be interesting to share with you. Just curious if it's no, 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 yes. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna check out this first video. And as you watch this first video, that's like 1.5 minutes, called With Math I Can, just take note of what thoughts or feelings pop up for you as you're watching this video. Okay, because we're going to ask you that after. So I'm just going to escape. And hopefully the sound comes through.
How do you feel about math?
I'm not good at math.
I just don't get it.
It makes me kind of feel uncomfortable
When I get called on in math class, I feel scared.
because I'm afraid I'm gonna mess up the problem.
My brain just doesn't think anymore, it doesn't think straight, and I just go like, okay, what do I do? I have no idea what to do.
Math makes me feel stupid.
Scared that I would answer wrong or get laughed at.
I'll never be able to do this.
Scene 16, take 1, marker.
I'm still learning who I am, but I'm good at.
Forming my idea of my own potential.
And if I think I can't be good at math, I won't be.
But math is everywhere.
Math is a basic life skill. Without math, I could get left behind.
So help me know that limits don't exist.
That math isn't beyond my reach.
And my potential can take me anywhere.
That with hard work and the right mindset,
I can grow.
because math esteem is self-esteem.
With math, I can be a fashion designer, a doctor,
A computer programmer.
a wildlife biologist.
A teacher.
With math, I can be anything. So click the link, take the pledge,
And find out how you can implement
growth mindset strategies
to improve your students' math esteem.
So I can have a fighting chance.
to become who I want to be.
So just take a moment. What pops to your mind when you listen to those students?
The mindset that the math is hard for some of them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and empathy. And Rhonda, that was you. Yeah. And Ashley. Yeah. Yeah. Seen in your classroom. Totally. And it's interesting, hey, it's almost like math can feel different than some of the other subjects. Yeah, and teary-eyed. Yeah, and I think it's because like as teachers, we know we're like, you know what? Yeah, we try really hard to support these students and to help them and to build their confidence. Because like one of the little people said, if you don't feel like you can do it, it's like really tricky then. So it's almost like, and hopefully you kind of got the feeling of it took a little bit of a hopeful turn in the video with sort of the change of, okay, what does it look like if I can do that? And the idea of, okay, you know what? We talk about this and we know it's important. Some of us love math. Some of us feel not so comfortable with math. So it's almost like no matter where we're coming from, how do we support these students? Like, what's the practical application piece? You're like, okay, now what do I do with this? And that's where some of those videos where Jill Bowler on her YouCubed website, and if I just pop to her website for a second, and this is linked in the resources that we'll share, but ucubed.org. She's done a lot of work and research on this whole mathematical mindset. And she's got this video that it's about 2.5 minutes. If we can just watch it together while you watch the second video, almost on the next steps to the first video, just think to yourself, okay, would you show this to your students? And if so, all of it or part of it? And what kind of conversation might you have with the students after this video? So imagine your students watching this next video.
I've been working on this one for so long. I just can't get it right. Every time I try something, it just doesn't work. I keep on messing up. I should just give up.
Hey! We've been alerted to this area because there's a ton of brain growth going on.
What do you mean? I've been failing at this problem.
Your brain has grown so much while working on this problem?
But I can't figure out. I've just been making mistake after mistake. I can't do it.
Exactly. Every time you make a mistake, a synapse fires in your brain. Synapses are connections that your brain makes every time it grows and creates new pathways.
Really?
Yeah. Struggle and mistakes and challenge are great for your brain. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. And challenging problems are great workouts.
So I should make mistakes and struggle?
Yes, we learn a lot and have a lot of brain growth, especially when we're making mistakes and working on hard problems.
So don't give up. Keep going. Some problems go unsolved for years, and that's fine. What's important is how much you learn while you're trying to solve them. Keep taking risks. Keep making mistakes.
Yeah, and your mathematical thinking process is super important and awesome. So if you keep learning and making mistakes, that's what's important.
Wow, I had no idea. I'm gonna keep working, and when I make a mistake, I'll know that my brain is growing.
Many people in school feel bad when they make mistakes. There's so much emphasis on everything being correct, even though that isn't that great for brain growth.
Yeah, I know when I was in school, I really hated making mistakes.
And brain science tells us those are the best times for brain growth. Those are the times when your brain is really struggling and when you're really challenged. Those are really good times for brain growth.
That makes sense with my experience. I feel like once I stopped worrying about being right or wrong, my brain was just on fire, and in a good way. In school, I very often just felt really bad when I made a mistake because we're always told like mistakes are bad, getting work right is good, but learning that mistakes actually or when you learn means that now when I make a mistake, it's a good thing. Now when I make a mistake, it's something that I get to explore, that I get to find different ways to think about, that I get to be able to get it right later.
So don't give up, keep going. Some problems go unsolved for years, and that's fine. What's important is how much you learn while you're trying to solve them. Keep taking risks, keep making mistakes.
So any thoughts about that video? What did you think? Is this something you could share with your students, or what kind of conversation might you want to have around this? Like, have you ever had those kids in your class who get super frustrated when they make a mistake? Yeah, thanks, Michelle. You know what? Really good call. And their parents. So true. Yeah, just compare it doing push-ups for your brain. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I had a student say to me once, well, more than once in different ways, but specifically, it's like, well, you just know what to do. You're just good at this. And it's like, well, first of all, I've been teaching this course for how many years? Like, I've done this a few times, but I don't just know what to do. Like, we have to think through the steps and we make mistakes. And sometimes they forget and they think we just know it. And no, definitely not. And yeah, you would share it. Okay, at your grade ones, you tell them it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. Totally. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Michelle, with your grade threes. Yeah, you make a mistake on purpose. Totally. Yeah, right. Because if we're trying to emphasize like risk taking and problem solving and what do mathematicians actually do, there's a lot of mistakes involved. Yeah. And sometimes they just need that almost support, knowing that's part of that's expected and it's part of the process. And I like to emphasize too that the lady in the video, she's like a professor at this big university and she's talking about making mistakes. And so this website, Jackie, you already put the link in the chat and it's in the resource document. But if you can see my screen here, if you're on the UCube site and you go to teaching resources, she has a whole bunch of videos. And if I just click on videos here, you'll see. And there's one that's only been up for like 4 days. It's like a new one here. You can have a look, and a lot of these videos are great for students to watch. Some of them are a little bit more for us as educators, like kind of this nature of 21st century math. So just click on it and listen to a little bit, and you'll get the idea if it's a video kind of aimed at students or at educators. But lots of really great messages here. The importance of struggle. Someone mentioned it's like doing push-ups. I think that's where she talks about, in sports and music, and we kind of look at mistakes in a different way and talking about how that's great for us to look at them the same way in math. Yeah, yeah, favorite mistake. That's a great strategy, Jackie. Totally. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so we wanted to make sure that everyone saw those videos, and those sort of fall into that whole, at the beginning of the year, setting your classroom up for that, building trust and beliefs. What are their beliefs about math? Inspiring curiosity. If students are a little more comfortable, willing to make mistakes, it's a bit more comfortable being curious and going in places we don't know the answers. Under establishing expectations, that whole idea of what does it mean to be good at math? Or if you ask your students, what is math? There's some really interesting answers you can get from that. And do they see themselves as mathematicians? Today, we'll look at a few rich tasks specifically together for the kind of kindergarten to grade 3 level. And also from UCubed is when we talk about students working together and sharing their ideas and their conversations, that can be totally rich and great work. Not all students know how to do that. And so it's like, what's a support for us in setting up group work and collaboration? And if I go to this document, sorry, I'm just going to escape from full screen here. This is also from UCubed, and she calls it good group work activity. And when you open it up, she has, and the lesson plans from ucube.org are beautifully laid out where it gives a lot of detail. So there, it's kind of nice because it's like a grab and go. You can take this, read through it, and see where it fits in your math class. And she talks about here, we always use this activity before students work on math together as it helps create an environment for productive group interactions. And the questions are things like the prompts. Have the students reflect on the things you do not like people to say and do when you're working in a math group. And then, sort of the flip side, reflect on the things you do like people to say and do when you're working on math in a group. And she goes through, like, those are kind of key prompts. And then she also gives more ideas. So there's sort of a think time at the beginning. You can have a nice group conversation. Peter Liljedahl kind of does something similar with what do you like, what don't you like. And both of these people talk about how it just makes it really explicit for the students to see what does good collaboration look like, sound like. Um, and then they sort of get in here. When students have enough time in groups brainstorming, different ways to do this, depends on the age of the students. But for this version, the group picked a facilitator from each group, and then the small group decided on the order they want to share their ideas. And basically, each group shares back about what they really like people to say when they work in a group and what they really like people not to do and say when they work in a group. So it sort of gets those expectations established early in the school year. Any thoughts on that? Has anyone tried this or something similar? And you know, if you have younger students, yeah, it might be done more verbally or with pictures. Maybe at the end you summarize the work with some key visuals. Yeah, but this is just a support in yeah, totally. Yeah, in how to help set up those norms for collaboration. And Rhonda, exactly. Thinking Classroom, if anyone's sort of doing some work with the Building Thinking Classroom framework, this can pair really nicely with that as well. Absolutely. Yeah. So, step two, we wanted to share some resources with you around getting to know students and specifically in mathematics. So, we talk about how that's a great idea. We want to also provide some really practical pieces of, okay, what could this look like? So, there's a link that Jackie will share into the chat that will take you to the slide deck. And it's all about getting to know your math students. So you have the students for all subjects, but kind of getting to know them specifically in the area of math. And slide 2 is almost like a table of contents. You can click on some of these. You'll notice the ideas kind of span from kindergarten up into kind of high school. So have a look and see which ones might be a nice fit for you. I'm just going to jump to me by the numbers. So slide 5 here. And what this teacher did, and there's a blank template if you like this, but she made an example for herself. So she put her name in the middle here. I'll just go large screen. And then she has all these different numbers that represent her in some kind of way. So maybe this would be more sort of on the grade 2, 3 end. But for example, number 7, I have been on the Toronto trip 7 times. Must be something with their school. I have taught in 6 different buildings. My family has 2 pets. So just to get to know your students and maybe for them to get to know each other a little bit. And if I go back to slide 2, that was me by the numbers. There's some kindergarten to grade 3 ideas. There's some ideas related to students and their own mathematical identity. Howie Hua, he's a university instructor now. He's a little older students, but he's got some interesting ideas. So we're just going to pause and give everyone about 5 minutes to sort of click through. And is there an idea in here that you think might work for your classroom? So we'll look through, we'll see what you find when we come back. And we will just be nice and quiet for a couple minutes. Okay, here's just the 30-second warning. So that was just a little bit of time, but one of the things that Jackie and I really wanted to do is we have a lot of resources today, and we don't want it to be overwhelming. We want it to be kind of like a buffet, like a little sample, maybe more like a charcuterie board, where because we know some of you will have seen some of the things that we're sharing. So we're hoping by the end of today, everyone will leave with like two things. Maybe they're new, or maybe they've just been sparked, renewed in your mind, but like two things that you can dive in and try for the start of this school year. So keep that in mind. Don't try to do everything on paper. Just try to, as we go through today, jot down like two things. And you can maybe, if a different one comes up, cross off one of them, but don't jot down like 15 things. Yeah, stress reducing today. So on that note, is there anything that you might try? Did you see something that you're like, oh, that's interesting, or that reminds me of something else? Or is there something you currently do to get to know your students that's working really well for you? Any thoughts either in the chat or by mic? If you have something that stands out in your mind, we'd love to hear about it. The survey idea. Okay, thanks, Janet. Yeah, that's a great one. And Jackie, me by the numbers. Yeah, that's kind of interesting to get to know each other. Yeah, the survey. Yeah. Yeah, question of the day. Yeah, awesome, Jill. Yeah, and I've seen some people do the survey, and maybe it was even in there, that idea. But yeah, almost the idea of once you do the survey, if you have like a few questions, few answers for them to choose from, you can be like, okay, anyone who picked this answer, stand in this corner of the room. Anyone who picked this answer, stand in this corner of the room. Because then you can get back into estimation a little bit. Like look around, which answer did most people choose? And just have them look at their peers and see if they can tell more or less from the different corners, just to throw in that estimation bit. Morning meeting. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, Rhonda. Okay, so you're already do that for literacy. Yeah. And that's a really good point. Sometimes it's really interesting to take some of the literacy practices that are out there and just tweak them a bit to include math, or, you know, Kim would be like, don't bump out literacy. Well, sometimes you can, but no, even like you said, just to include a math piece in some of the things that we do for literacy, for sure. Okay, thanks, you guys. Okay, well, you'll always have this slide deck linked as well from the companion slides and the resources, so you can come back to this anytime you like. So that, and thank you for doing the sharing, that sort of helps getting to know your students, and getting to know them ties into all five of those key ideas we were talking about, right? Like as you know your students and build that relationship, that helps with the trust and belief, and maybe they feel more comfortable being curious. And so they're all sort of overlapping a little bit. So part two then is looking specifically at still those five key ideas. And what does it look like with rich tasks? Like, let's actually have a look together at some possible learning experiences. And now it's a little tricky to look at sort of kindergarten learning experiences and to try to do them as adults because you guys can do them so easily. So for the kindergarten one, we're just going to look at it and then we're going to try like a grade 1 to 3 because this one is, I find it quite interesting. But for the kindergarten one, let me bump over. I think I linked to group work. Sorry, I have it right here. Yeah. And this is also linked in the resources. But back to Joe Bowler and the U Cubed site, so a prepared lesson plan, she really talks about the benefits of using our fingers in math and how we have these manipulatives, base 10, there's 10 of them already. And she did this experiment or this research where they had students, and I think that's linked there in the article in this lesson plan, where they took people and they like whoop, sent them through an MRI machine and they asked them some mathematical questions. And what they found was the part of their brain that's actually connected to finger movement would light up when they're thinking about math. So she's talking about how there's this connection between our fingers and math. And so she's like, develop it, use it. And she talks about math, like finger discrimination, knowing your fingers apart from each other. So, for example, in this lesson plan, she has a mindset video that she recommends. And then she has, if I scroll down, this. I don't know if you've seen this before, but I thought these were kind of cool. You could get those, you know, those little stickers you can buy at the dollar store that are different colors. And you put the little stickers on students' fingernails, and then you print out these mazes. So these are small versions of the maze. She has them enlarged below. And you have the students trace the maze. Like if I go to a longer one or a bigger one, right here, for example. So I would take whatever finger has the blue dot, I would trace the blue line with the blue finger. And then same thing, whatever finger has the green dot, I would trace the green line with the green finger, etc. So it starts, I mean, I was going to say fairly easy, but still that's twisted up decently. But as you go through, they get more and more complicated. Like look at this last one. It's like, wow, that might even be a challenge for me. Like spatial reasoning can sometimes be interesting. But the whole idea is for students to really start telling apart their fingers. So I thought that is interesting and how that's connected to math. And then she has other ideas as well. She gets into finger twister. And is this the one that has the piano keys too? Choose a different one that has some piano keys in different colors, and you play the piano with the same dots of your fingers that match the color on like what she's calling piano keys. So these are all from ucube.org and really great way for young students to start working on that finger discrimination. Oh yeah, thank you, Jackie. So let me just pause there for a second. Any questions or thoughts about this, or has anyone tried it and had success or challenges with it? No, maybe it's something new for a lot of people. Never tried it. Yeah.
Well, and I was just going to add, it's kind of like that concept too, where I work with teachers with little ones, just also when they're counting counters, you know, taking two fingers and putting two fingers down and sliding two counters instead of one finger and going 1, 2. If I'm counting 3 counters, I have my 3 fingers and I slide 3 counters. I think it kind of parallels that idea as well.
Yeah, thanks for adding that in, Jackie. Totally. And then for you folks out there who love the literacy world, I know Kim Takaberry, a colleague of mine, she talks about this handwriting module from Hetty R from the U of C, who really goes into sort of the precursor steps of handwriting. And there's a lot, it's interesting the overlap. There's a lot of tracing and, you know, following your fingers. So, I mean, it's interesting how this is a connection between literacy and numeracy as well. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, so if you've not tried this yet, awesome resources here for very young students, you know, maybe even some grade 1 to see how their fine motor skills are. And so for the Slightly older students, this is recommending grade 1, 2. Now, remember, U cubed is a United States resource, so always take their grade levels with a grain of salt. This could easily, you'll see this activity could be extended probably to junior high, but it could also work for grade 1 students, depending on how complicated we make it. So count on me. This is the one that we're going to try together. So you guys are going to try this yourselves, just to get a feel for what it would be like to do this with your students. So they give us a nice introduction. They talk about, we all use our fingers to count, but do we do it in the same way? So this activity, it gives students an opportunity to explore the different ways that we can use the fingers to count the same number in different ways. And here it's talking about finger discrimination again. There's a link to that article, why students should use their fingers. And what we're doing, there's even a video for this if you want to watch the video and show your students. But what we're doing is we're basically using the simplest way possible is on one hand. What are all the different ways we can count to 1 on one hand? And this part you would do probably as a group with your students. Well, I can count using my thumb, 1. I can count using this finger, 1. I can count using this finger, 1. So there's 5 different ways to count to 1 on one hand. So it's like, okay, that doesn't seem that hard. No, not yet. So then it's like, okay, how many different ways can you count to 2 on one hand? And then it can slowly get more challenging. As I look down here. And here, I love how she's got the mindset messages like right intertwined with the concepts. Because she talks here, one of the many messages you might want to attach is that mathematicians know there are multiple ways to approach problems. And making time for students to experience this will really help them define math as a bit more open and creative. And it goes through to help us figure out how to introduce this to students. Start by inviting students to share how they count to 5 using 1 or 2 hands. Depends on your grade level. Or here they're saying you can leave it up to students. You might consider having partners. They can share with each other how they count to 5. So you can do this in small groups first. Once partners have explored several different ways of counting, say 3, you can bring the class together and have a discussion. So for you guys, what we're going to do is so they have handouts. You can print these off, and students could actually use visuals of hands to try to keep track, a little bit of data management in here, the different ways that they're counting. And here's maybe they want an entire page of hands. For you guys, if we go to our companion slides, on slide number 8, at first we were dividing this up by last name. Like if your last name begins with A to J, maybe you could be on slide 9 to 13. But consider that a suggestion. You can move around based on your grade level. But if you look in these companion slides, and you'll see the link again in the chat in a moment, the questions all start on slide 9. So slide 9 it shows one hand, and the question at the top, how many ways can you count to 1 using one hand? So we kind of did that as a group, so probably nobody's going to pick number 9. But the idea was each of these colors, those colors rectangles, gives a space for a different person to type. So if I wanted to answer this, I might just click in person 2, and I'd say Wanda WD, and I'd say there are 5 ways. Whatever I want to say. Don't worry about spelling. So then if we click on slide 10, you'll notice it changes slightly. It's still one hand, but how many ways can you count to 2 on one hand? And here you can use the hand labeled with letters if you want to make it a little easier to write it out. If you're actually with students in person, you're probably visually showing. But you'll see it gets more and more complicated, right? Slide 11 is count to 3. Slide 12, 4. 13 is count to 5. Different ways to count to 5 with one hand. And then we jump to 2 hands. So it kind of starts over. How many ways to count to 1 using 2 hands, etc. All the way up to slide 18. How many ways can you count to 5 using 2 hands? So we're just going to pause, again, for another, like, say, 5 minutes. Pick one of these questions between slide 9 and 18 to kind of try. and just type out your thoughts. And then we'll get back together and see what you think of this activity. Yeah, and if you tried one slide, you might want to try another. Um, where was it? I saw someone and it was like, that's the exact thought I had when I first tried this. On slide 15, the person in teal. Yeah, yeah, you started. And it's like, whoa, it's more than I thought. I got to 20 and lost my memory, right? So it's like, okay, so again, back to that data management and how are we tracking this? And how complicated are we making it for what grade level? Because in Caitlin, when doing this task, is it just neighboring fingers or any combination? Yeah, exactly. That's right. So there's some questions that pop up, right? So as you're doing the first demo, um, you might even want to demo how many ways can we count to two on one hand, because that's a bit more complicated than counting to one on one hand. Because technically, to answer your question, Caitlin, it does not have to be neighboring fingers. It can be any combination of how you're counting. Yeah, I know, Jackie. I like the ambiguity too, because it brings up those questions of, wait a minute, my answer would be different if I did it this way. And you can decide if you leave that ambiguity and you have different groups do it in different ways. And then you can talk about, hey, how come this group got a different answer than this group? And that's a great time to talk about assumptions that were made. Or, well, I was thinking it was only neighboring fingers. Okay, that's not wrong because we didn't say either way, right? And someone else is saying I was thinking it could be any fingers. Okay. And then did you guys, let's see, on the tens. Because then I know another thought that popped in my head. I was like, wait a minute. Does it matter sort of the order too? Like if I'm counting on two hands, say I'm counting different ways to count to three. If I start with my baby finger and I go one, two, three, and then I go one, and I skip that one, two, three, can I use, I guess, the same fingers, but different orders? I count one, two, three, or one, two, three. So you know what I mean? I use the same three fingers, but I counted them differently. And the answer is it depends how you set it up. If, Kate, now let me show you one more thing. Because I was like, I don't know about you guys, but I love doing things and I'm happy to do things that I don't totally know the answer to. But sometimes I'm like, did I get them all? Did I miss anything? Like, what is the answer to that? So sometimes, if I move this now, it was a secret code. ChatGPT can also be our friend in circumstances like this. So what I did, and you have this link here as well, is I asked ChatGPT, I said, okay, can you show me the answers? And I wanted the formulas too, because I also wanted to be able to extend this up the grade levels. You don't need the formulas. But the answers, the formulas, and the patterns for the following scenarios, right? Different ways to count to one on one hand, two on one hand, blah, 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 all the way down. And ChatGPT, I thought it was kind of cool because the assumptions, each hand has 5 fingers. I'm like, I didn't even think of that assumption. But you know what? It happens, right? Okay, yep. I did assume each hand had 5 fingers. A finger is either up or down. You are counting combos of fingers that give the total. Yeah, so yeah. Order of fingers does not matter. So that's what ChatGPT assumed at first. So any order. So 1, 2 is different than 2, 1. You know what I mean? The same fingers, different order. If that's the case, here are the answers. Don't worry about the formula. You just look to the far right. So to count to 1 on one hand that has 5 fingers, there are 5 ways. To count to 2, there are 10 ways. To count to 3, there are 10 ways. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to double check that. To count to 4, there are 5 ways. To count to 5, there's 1 way. So again, kind of a beautiful pattern there. I was like, interesting. And it tells us on what it looks like counting with 2 hands. And I was like, so whoever said, whoa, I lost track, no kidding. Because to count to 5 with 2 hands, there's 252 ways if order doesn't matter. And I was a little bit like, I would not have thought there's that many ways. I was like, that is interesting. So then I was like, all right, ChatGPT, change an assumption. Let's say order does matter. Because even for grade 3 students, if they're trying to track how many? 252 ways. I mean, even for myself, good luck. Like no, that's tricky. Not impossible, but for this task, we don't want it quite that hard yet. So I'm like, let's just say order does matter. Then what do the answers look like? So now here on one hand, order matters. Oh yeah, no. Sorry. If order matters, that means 1 and 2 is different than 2 and 1. So that means there's actually more ways. So you look at this. So you don't need these answers from ChatGPT. But what I liked is I kind of like knowing the different possibilities that are out there. And maybe for an enrichment with a student, you could then tell them, hey, guess what? There's actually more ways than you might think. Oh, yeah. Janet, you got to 45. Wow. Yeah. And if students are looking, if you just looked at these numbers, so they're kind of big numbers, but does anyone, if you're looking here on my screen, anyone notice a pattern to the answers on the far right? What do you guys see? Like if you start looking at that answer to 252, there's 252 ways to count to 5 on 2 hands. What do you notice on either side of that answer? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, on either side it's 210. On either side of that, it's like 120. It almost builds up to a pyramid kind of. So even like patterns like that are kind of interesting. But just to show you, you could make this as complex as you wanted, all the way up to junior high. Or you could say, you know what? We're not really going to worry about the actual answers. Yeah, like the number bonds. Yeah, totally. We're not going to really worry about the actual answers. We're just going to see what we get as groups and talk about it and show each other how did we count. But sometimes as a teacher, it's nice to have in the back of your mind, okay, well, there's definitely more than 20 ways. So if you are someone who likes to know that kind of stuff, that's where ChatGPT can be a friend when you can ask for different solutions to some of these rich tasks. For this activity, imagine you did this with, say you had grade 2 or 3 students, even grade 1, 2, or 3, depending on how simple you kept it. Have a look at these debrief questions for a sec. Any of these stand out as interesting to you? Would you definitely use one of these debrief questions, or would you definitely not use any of these debrief questions? Yeah, Rhonda, like the pattern question. Yeah, do you notice any interesting patterns, right? Jackie, how can you be sure? Yeah, yeah. And number 4, it's like now that you know how many ways there are, right? It's like, and again, even if they're not sure, but how could they be on the right track to accounting for different answers? What are all the possible ways? Exactly. And just the verbal explaining, totally. Yeah. And let me just show you so in the note section of the debrief, yeah, exactly. There's all these links that are related to this task, the count on me. And I just want to pull up this video for 1 second because I don't want to scare you with all those different combos. You can keep it very simple as well for this activity. And if I just click on this. So here are some of the questions from U Cubed, and you have this same student explaining it. So I'm just going to play her description a little bit for you because you could use this with your students if you wanted to try an activity like this.
Hello, UCubed at Home friends. My name is Monse from the UCubed team, and today I'm going to tell you about an activity called Count on Me. We had written a version of this activity for younger kids because they do a lot of counting, but we realized counting on fingers is for everybody, not just for young kids. So here's a series of questions that should be interesting to everybody about counting in your fingers. So first one is, how many ways can you show each number between 1 and 5 on your hand? So for example, number 1, we can show like this, or this, or this, or this, or this. So there's 5 ways to show number 1 on one hand. But what about number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5? And then what if we bring in another hand? How many ways can you show every number between 1 and 10 on both of your hands? And then you can think about which of these numbers can you show in the most ways? Which number can you show in the least ways possible? Do you see any patterns in there? Are there any interesting patterns you recognize as you're figuring out which numbers you can show in more or fewer ways? And then you can start thinking about counting, not just showing each number individually, but the string of the numbers being shown. So for example, on one hand, we could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we could also go backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can also follow other orders. So how many ways can you count from 1 to 5 on one hand? And what about counting from 1 to 10 on both? How many ways can you do that? And then thinking about how can you make sure you didn't miss any of the ways? Can you convince a skeptic that you are counting every single possible way to count? So these are all interesting questions about counting and numbers that we hope you enjoy. We hope you come up with your own as well while you're doing this. And then you share with us. You can use the hashtag UCubed at home on social media and come to ucubed.org and check out everything else we have there.
So you can leave it pretty simple and not even worry about the total number combinations possible. This could be one of those questions, you know, how that one girl in the first video about mistakes that we saw, second video actually, says some problems take years to solve. Maybe this is one you kind of continue to come back to once in a while. And there's a version for kindergarten and a version for grade 1 and 2. So just wanted to share that as a potential rich task. And let me just pop this up for a sec. So that was the count on me, and we had a look at the finger activities. Yesterday, when we shared with the grade 3 to 6, we looked at the 4-4s. That's linked in here as well, like in your resource page if you wanted that. But these are just some samples of some possible engaging tasks. Now, what do you think? A time to pause for a second, and in the chat, would you try this with your students? And if you did, what might you learn from them by watching them do a task like count on me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, sure. How willing are they to persevere and try to find some of these different possibilities? Yeah, good point, Jackie. That's really interesting too, right? Sometimes you get those students who just like to tell versus trying to support each other. If anyone is using the different whiteboards in their classroom, it could be great for that. Then people could see what other groups are doing and get a little bit of information from around the class. Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yep, yep. These rich tasks can really give you great insight to who's curious, who's scared. Students become leaders, helpers. Totally. Yep, totally. Yep. Yep. And when you're like looking for these types of rich tasks, there are tasks so many places, and we have a whole bunch to share with you guys in the resource section that we'll share. And the idea is these three kind of key ideas. Does this task have the low floor, high ceiling? Like could anyone engage with this task? Like for example, the count on me. Many students probably would be able to show you different ways to count to 5 on one hand, perhaps. So that's kind of the low floor of that task. And you saw the ceiling goes very high. So that's low floor and kind of high ceiling. Multiple approaches and solutions for a rich task. And the idea of that collaboration. Totally. Yep. So our time always goes so fast together. There's definitely a planning document that we would love to share with you. Jackie put together this beautiful document that I'm actually going to jump to, and then I'm going to come back to some of these resources because this planning document is a great spot if you found something you're interested in. And Jackie it is on slide 28. Jackie will put the link in the chat. And it will look like this on my screen here. And from the link, you can make a copy of this document and you can edit it and use it if you feel it's helpful to you. But the idea is up at the top, here are those key ideas about building trust and belief, inspiring curiosity, collaboration, expectations, the rich tasks. Then there's a couple other categories about problem-based math and then just resources in general. And there's a bunch of links up here as well. And Jackie, I love how you set this up. I think Jackie originally set this up for a different project and then we've adapted it a few times, but it works beautiful for planning. For example, here on Monday, let's just say we wanted to try that count on me. So the task is linked here, the one that we sort of did together. If you're looking at the competencies, we can say, all right, well, there's definitely problem solving. There was critical thinking. There was managing information for sure. How do we keep track of the data? Collaboration if they did it in groups. So this kind of can help you just keep track of the different competencies that we have in Alberta, and are there certain ones that we tend to kind of focus on more than others? This might just be a nice view for us as teachers. And if you don't want these horizontal lines, you could also change them to anything else since it's edible for you. But then we talk about the competency development phase. What could that look like? And if you click here, it'll take you to the competency progressions that Alberta Education has. So again, if that's something you're focusing on and highlighting, you can totally do that. Closure ideas, the whole idea of bringing students together. Maybe in this activity, we were really focusing on multiple ways to find answers. And you could write down any questions you want to remember to ask students for the closure part of it. So it's just linked to some possible questions, materials, and accommodations. So this is almost like that sort of big, it's a 2-week view if you print out 2 pages of it, but the big 1-week view here of what your sort of warm-ups or learning tasks might look like in your math class. And even at the top, you could end up swapping out some of these links if you have certain ones you like to use multiple times. And that's why I just thought I would share this planning document first with you in case you wanted to make a copy. Oh, yes. Thank you, Jackie. Yes, yes. Links up. Right. Anything. So anything that you see in blue will take you to a different link for sure. Yep. Because then for filling it in, that's where some of these right here, resources came up. So we've looked quite a bit at U Cubed. They have a whole bunch of lesson plans and some great ideas. And if I just click it one more time, also when you're on U Cubed, the website, if you go to teaching resources and week of inspirational math, that's where you can find a bunch of really great lesson ideas and lesson plans. So there's an old week of inspiring math, which is great, and the new ones. Either one you can click through. If I click kindergarten and grade 1, again, it's US based, so keep that in mind. It kind of narrows down the focus for you a little bit. If you click here on the old week of inspired math, you can have a look through and again, click on the grade level that interests you. And then there's a combination of sort of those mindset videos and lesson ideas. So that was U Cubed, teaching resources, and then week of inspirational math. And the other site that's not known as often, and it's really great for the young learners, is this Erickson Math Institute, sort of from even younger than kindergarten up to grade 2. And if you click on the idea library, and this one's also linked in your resources. But here, if I'm in the idea library, this little cloud on the right of this website, then you can go and filter through to say, you know what, I would like to look at number sense. I only want activities. I don't want like the background articles and sort of more teacher info. I just want activities. This is going to be for kindergarten. Again, it's US, so ish. And let's see, any topics? No, I'm just going to leave that blank. And I'm going to submit. Let it do its little search. And it will come up with some different ideas to look at number sense with young students. And if I click on any of them, I'll just click on this one here. You'll see how it's set up. So there's a little video that kind of shows here students actually engaging in this idea. It gives you a little bit of a write-up that talks about what they're doing. Sometimes it'll give you over here a link, downloads, if there's something related that you could maybe use. I've just found they have really great ideas for kind of the kindergarten, grade 1 age students. And that was at the Erickson Institute. And then the last resource, because again, charcuterie board, remember, so pick 1 or 2 out of all these things we're talking about. But the last resource is a collection of math resources. So a grade 1 teacher and myself, we just got together, and the common sort of math routines that teachers have tended to use and to like we put them all in one spot so they're easier to find. So here, for example, there's Steve Wyborny. As it clicks through he had a bunch, so we put them all like there's, if I start again, oh yeah, here, I'll just scroll through here. Each dot represents a different activity of Steve's, but there's like Splat, Estimysteries, Cube Conversations, Subitizing Slides, Estimation Clipboard, 100 Chart, 20 Days of Number Talk. So he's got lots of information. Which one doesn't belong? Would you rather? So you'll see there's some that you're probably very familiar with. Hopefully there's one or two that might be new to you. And if you've not explored, there's one called First Grade Math Talks. And we emailed Rebecca to say, hey, can we share this? And she says, yes, you sure can. Because if you click on it, she has it set up where she's got different math talks kind of ready to go. So here, for example, and you mix and match. You don't have to do it how she has it, but you can look through and see, do you like it? She's got it set up with some visuals. So this one is the same but different. So what's the same and what's different in these two images that you're using with students? And on the left, she has a little reminder of the hand signals she uses for math talks. So if you're looking to kind of fill out that planning guide with some new ideas, there's many here. The only caution I might give, Jackie and I were talking about this the other day, is that there are so many different routines as you see here. It can be tricky changing it up every single day because now your students and yourself, you have to get used to a totally different routine. So it's almost like if you find a routine that you like, try that routine for a while and just switch out the content or the images, but keep the actual routine the same. So you don't have to retrain the students on kind of the actual routine itself, if that makes sense. So do that one for a while. And then when you're ready, when you're feeling like they're getting a little bit tired of that, maybe switch to another routine. Do that for a while and change out the math content, but keep that routine kind of consistent. And we've just found in talking to teachers that that can be helpful. So do with that as you will. All right. So you're like, show me the money. Where do I find all this stuff? That is a good question. We want to make sure you have the link to all this before you go. And there's a resource that looks kind of like what you see on the screen right here. And this is where Jackie and I compiled these links together. And Jackie's putting this link into the chat. And I believe this is also now at the bottom of your companion slides. So if we scroll down in the companion slide deck, yeah, on slide 21, so you have it in two spots, in the chat of Zoom and in the companion slide, so you can make sure that you get there so you can find all these different links. And then the last thing I'm going to share is that this was, again, sort of a, what do you say, the good old tip of the iceberg. There are so many different amazing resources out there and ways to use them. And Jackie and I want to say, if you have questions or you want to dive more deeply into anything specifically, reach out to us. We, the consortia, APLC, support educators all across Alberta, so we can come and help you and have conversations with you. And if it's not Jackie or myself, we also have colleagues geographically spread across the province who do the same work that Jackie and I do, so we can connect you with someone in your area. But please feel welcome to reach out because we all love talking about this math and working with teachers and brainstorming together. Like that's the fun part of our job, is working with you guys. So email us if you have questions. And if you have time to answer our survey, we would totally appreciate that. And we really hope that you could walk away with 2 ideas, maybe one new and one resparked, whatever kind of combo that is. But just take a deep breath, take 2, and have an amazing start to your school year. Jackie, is there anything I forgot?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, good luck everybody to your new 2025-26 school year. And a lot of the tasks that Wanda and I did today, or I did yesterday and she did today, continue them through the year. You know, the one thing that I found that working with teachers is they kind of did some of these tasks and talked about growth mindset and talked about like building those relationships, but then they stopped after 2 weeks. So how do you incorporate this all year long? That'll be the challenge that Wanda and I want to leave with you from today.
Thank you, Jackie. Love it. Have a great school year, and we hope to chat with you guys throughout the year. Thanks for joining us.
Jackie and Wanda,